you still believe in, for example, equality before the law? Not material equality, but equality in how the government treats
I don't
people.
agree in equality before the law. I think
Let him explain it. Let him explain it.
Okay.
should be punished.
Because it gets, believe it or not, it gets worse.
I don't agree in equality before the law. I think that criminals should be punished and innocent people should be released. That's an unequal distribution of goods.
Sargon, that is equality before the law. Or
it's not.
That's not even the principle. You've just missed. The principle is that two people that commit the same crime get the same sentence.
No, Uzalu.
An innocent person and a guilty.
Uzalu, that's not equality, Uzalu. That's fairness. That's not equality. That's fairness.
Fairness. Incidentally, I've realized this years ago. Adolf Hitler, Pol Pot, Kim Jong-un would say that they're for fairness. And quite a few of them would believe it, because what is fairness? It's just desserts. It's this group gets what they deserve, and this group gets what they deserve. Fairness is a nice word for my choice. However, equality under the law is, whoa, okay, suddenly I don't get to choose. Suddenly we use standards that are equivalent for everyone.
Yes, Lady Justice is blind for a reason. Go back about 30 seconds and let Sargon say that shit again.
Not material equality, but equality in how the government treats people.
I don't agree in equality before the law. I think that criminals should be punished and innocent people should be released. That's an unequal distribution of goods.
Okay, that's not exactly what I was referring to. What I mean is, if you're accused,
that's the problem, isn't it? Right. The problem is the word equality can be used to mean anything.
Okay.
So no, I'm not using.
Okay, so he gets that, but he doesn't get that there is a correct way of using it.
Yes.
Use a different word then, Sargon. Use blind justice rather than equality, mate.
Well, no, because then it's just pedantic actuallying, and I hate that shit. No. Yes, equality can be used to mean a lot of things. That's what adjectives are for.
That is a great response. That's what adjectives are for. I like that line. That's very good. Yeah, adjectives or other words that attach onto it, like of the law or legal equality being the adjective. Easy.
Like equality of opportunity, equality under the law, equality of or of outcomes. If you really want that route, which you shouldn't, but there you go. But I just.
You know what?
Oh my God.
You know what word could never have more than one meaning and be misinterpreted? Fairness.
I
don't know. You said that. I assume Sargon is going to say it.
Oh, so yes, he is going to say it.
That's so disappointing.
Yeah, I told you, dude. I told you. Now think about going through this last night, 5.5 hours in, when you had to wake up in the morning. Do you understand now why I stopped you when you did?
I think that might have been the right call, yeah.
Oh my God, equality can mean anything. Postmodernist dreck. It can mean anything. No, words have meaning. Words have purpose. Stop.
If what he's saying is that activists can change it to mean anything, then sure. I think that there is some utility in choosing our words carefully to make them less easy to misrepresent. Sure. In which case, there's like a dozen options for each of these concepts. Equality, opportunity, market, merit, focus. It's just off the top of my head. You could come up with a better one. Equality under the law, blind justice. Pick a different equality. I don't even know.
Meritocratic equality. There you go. There's your word. There's your phrase.
Yes, you can still use equality. I would say I can see where he's coming from with not using equality because there's many bad definitions of it. But even if you do, there are ways to deal with it. Yes. Like people will always reduce it to the simplest possible expression. But Sargon, you're not a stranger to coming up with new words when they're needed. Perhaps we do need new words for these concepts. Even if blind justice as 2 words is too many. It's too long. Merit equality. Suspense as merit equality. It's not bad, but again, people may end up reducing it just to equality. The thing is, what I can agree on is that I don't think that equality as just itself should be posited or promoted as a value of classical liberalism. Because whilst it is partly true, it's so easy to misrepresent just saying equality that, you get these problems. But that is a pretty trivial language issue, Sargon. It's not cause to implement a monarchist anarchist system. If that's what you're recommending, that's not necessary to solve this problem. And maybe you think that there are dozens of others, but if this is the standard of problem, then I think we can get through them pretty easily. It seems like he has tooled his beliefs in too focused a way to undermine progressives without realizing what he'll lose by doing so.
Equality anymore. There is no equality. Men are not equal in any way, shape, or form. So let's just not bring it up.
Okay, but I specifically said equality before the law. The before the law part's very important.
No, I don't want to be equal before the law,
Here's
because that would imply
question.
that someone who
Fire
has
is the
10
answer.
convictions is equal to me who has 0 convictions. No, I want us to be judged fairly, based on who we are and what we've done and what has led up to this point.
Well, if they've served like that, Sargon is a question of that's not exactly what is meant by blind justice. Because if you've committed 10 felonies, then there is a reason to believe you might commit more. What we're talking about with blind justice is 2 people with maybe a different political standing, but no felonies, let's get to that later, commit crimes, they don't get a different sentence. They are both subject to the law. Now, if we're talking about previous convictions, there is a good argument against your position here. If they've served their time, then there is a reasonable expectation that is that's repeals the problem. Now, what is their time? That could be very wrong, and it could obviously be manipulated so that that's worse. But I don't think even someone that's in favor of blind justice would be completely against the idea of taking former convictions as possibly an information to the future convictions. But we have mechanisms to do that. Suspended sentences, for example, which is actually probably quite a good idea for non-violent offenders. So there are ways of dealing with this argument. But again, this seems like quite a small objection to what is ultimately an obviously correct principle. You're saying you disagree with it on the basis of a fairly minor part of it, when ultimately you would not say that an aristocrat should get a shorter sentence than a peasant for doing the same crime. I assume you would not say that.
The thing is, it's either like I don't know what it is, and it's one of 2 options, and neither of them look very good, Carl. You either are actually this dumb, which I don't think you are, because saying I don't want to be treated the same as someone who has 10 felonies, because that's obviously you won't be treated the same as someone who has 10 felonies because of your actions, because you are treated equally. You are either too stupid to do that, and I know for a fact you're not, because you used to argue the opposite, or you're doing this on purpose.
Mm. So to be
You're
very
being
clear,
intently pedantic and obtuse in order to push something else. And that is rather deceptive. Either that, or you are actually because the thing is, there is a 1.5, which is you genuinely do believe this because you have become this obtuse, which I really don't like the thought of.
He was always a bit obtuse. Decquire says no. He precisely stated what actually happened. Yeah. Just because it happens doesn't mean we're talking about principles here. Just because it happens in a society that is under the strain of decades of focused corruption doesn't mean that the principle is wrong. In fact, the problem is the principle is not being followed. What Sargon should be advocating here is what's currently happening is wrong. Therefore, we need equality under the law. And I hate to sit here. Actually, I don't really. But, it's notable that I'm sitting here wholeheartedly agreeing with Dev, but what Dev has said for the last few minutes has been fine.
Yeah. And again, that's another reason why I wanted to do this, which is, Dev is not always the biggest idiot in the room.
Yeah. And as Sir Suspense says, it's a very good point. This is something I was going to bring up just after, but he says, unless God decides to come down and run the courts himself, which I will take as a metaphor, you'll just get a fairness prog skin suit. What Sargon is advocating for here is under a system where he is in charge of every court,
Mhm.
you might get a better society. The moment someone else is, which will be the first moment, you are going to start getting bias, because the idea of a level playing field is not intended primarily to solve the maximum number of problems in the current day. It is intended to keep the system stable for a long time. And yes, it does work, even today. The amount of shit we can deal with in this society without it collapsing is incredible, unprecedented. And it's still adapting, it's still healing. And quite well, to be honest, depending on different societies doing better. But it's so that people can't just do whatever the fuck they want. We have this set of standards which are not exactly right on their own, but they're a sea on which all the ships float so that they can't cheat, basically. And then everything on top of that, there can be some determinations made based on other factors, based on available, useful, important information, just like in the market, where you have this basic set of standards everyone follows so that no one cheats. And above that, it's almost all merit, or maybe a few other things that would be fairly neutral in that equation. Anything that is clearly anti-merit or makes the system less meritorious should be considered for being added to that set of standards that we don't allow. And it's the same thing with justice, as I said.